I'm your host, Cindershadow, and today we got to talk about the return of TSR. Who is TSR? I believe they're Tactical Studies Rules or something like that. Something very close to that. But it's not the acronym or anything that is important. It is what they made as a product. And back in the heyday, they made a game called Dungeons and Dragons. This is a second edition book that I have. You can see right on the bottom, the logo TSR is right on there. If you're a well-known player of Dungeons and Dragons and you know the history of the product, you know that this means a ton to the gaming world. This was one of the pillars that role-playing has been propped up on. Also, if you happen to know who they are as a company and how long they have been around in the gaming space, in the gaming world, there was commercials that went out on the airwaves to discredit who they were a long time ago.
Do not think that many parents are aware of what's inside the game.
They talked about it from a church aspect, saying it was satanic,
just to show the images
and
of this
more.
game. I mean, the gruesomeness
It's
of this
absolutely
game, and the occult link
ridiculous to think that this game had anything to do with demons, worshipping demons, and anything like that of the past.
Is involved in the pieces of the game, but they take the pieces of the game, they would throw them in the incinerator or the fireplace, and screams would come out because there seemed to be some kind of spiritual forces inhabiting those pieces.
They're talking about how the pieces of the game were possessed. Like, this is absolutely insanity. But back when this commercial first aired, or this first product knockdown on them first aired, this was back in the early 80s, late 70s or something like that.
And children would drop out of life. They didn't want to study anymore. What are the pieces, for instance?
Well, this game affects the most intelligent of our children, and the pieces include white witches, wizards, necromancers, the clerics.
Yeah, like, they're talking all the evil aspects of the game originally back in the day. It's absolutely ridiculous that you see that this is something of history at this point.
Evil wizards. It's a white versus black witchcraft.
And that's not even the case.
The good versus evil is white versus black witchcraft. And Anton LaVey, the writer of the Satanist Bible, says there is no such thing.
It's asinine to think that this was the rhetoric that they were pushing back when this game was picking up initial steam. When Dungeons and Dragons was created and really did see the light of day, you would gather in your basement and play the game with a set of dice and a set of rules. And those sets of rules allowed you to focus and actually go forward and make your character the way that you wanted them to be. They allowed you to turn around and make whatever you wanted to be, play whatever you wanted to be. And there has been additions to these rules time and time and time again.
It's white witchcraft.
Well, being a Satan worshiper, he should know.
Yeah. So, plain and simple, back in the day, they went through their own what we're calling nowadays cancel culture, and this was something that was pushed back then. This is a very old thing, and TSR actually put this out. What we've been experiencing in the recent days, very reminiscent of another moment in TSR history. Who recalls the Satanic Panic? Ends up, some people even today still believe the TTRPG and D&D are in fact evil. Now, TSR recently came out of the woodwork on who they were, because they apparently, Wizards of the Coast originally had TSR back a long time ago. When they hit financial trouble, Wizards of the Coast bought them up and took the company, and then they let the copyright lapse. And it sounds like, from what I've been reading and what I've been researching, is that copyright, it was picked up by the son of Gary Gygax, Ernest Gygax, and a few others. And meaning they brought it home to roost. They took the company that their father had made, and it's now come back home. it's so much, there's so much history here. There is talk that there is a museum opening up near Wisconsin where the game was originally created, that they're now pushing this game, once again, TSR Games, into the marketplace to make new adventures, new things for D&D alongside of Wizards of the Coast products and stuff like that. They can still storytell. They can still do everything around it. Now, what does this mean? Wizards of the Coast still owns, or Hasbro still owns, the Dungeons and Dragons title, and TSR Games just happens to be where it came from. They also made Dragon Magazine, which I believe I have plenty of at this point. And the game itself, or the company itself, is insurmountable on who they were and what they did for the gaming world today. Now, what is going on? What has happened? Well, recently they came out with a live stream, or a live thing on their YouTube channel. And in particular, one thing people are upset about.
While they're trying to keep things going. But I just want to say that TSR has been gone. There's a ton of artists.
I gotta say, he is trying to skirt the line here. He really is. And I understand that solely because there are people that will just clip this anyway and take it the wrong way. And that is not the purpose of this. I gotta say, they're walking into a new generation, and in 2021, it's all about canceling one another for no reason other than to feel relevant. And that's what happens from this small little clip.
Was there, and recently they were dissed for being old-fashioned, possibly anti modern trends. And
in all intents and purposes, modern trends is what we're dealing with. We see this every decade. There is a trend that hits the market and people run with it. And in all intents and purposes, it snowballs out of control. And what we're seeing in today's modern age is a trend of people that will sit there and scream from the rooftops. And because they are the loudest, they get their way. And that is where things really go off the wayside.
And enforcing, or even having the concepts of gender identity. So I don't know. Anyway, that is the clip that everyone is pissed off about. They are upset about it because they're talking about gender identity and all this other stuff. Like I've said in the past, do what you want. You want to identify as anything. There is nothing wrong with this statement here. Nothing whatsoever is wrong with this statement. Now, on Ernie's, that was Ernie that we were listening to there. On his timeline, on his Twitter, he actually did apologize, trying to say, listen, I didn't say that to offend anyone. I didn't say that. He's just telling you the way things are. And everyone is taking it completely wrong. And this is where it is. Justin is right about this. I do apologize to any and all communities and persons I offended. I had no such intent and wish we could stop it because it's hurting people. It truly is hurting people. It is hurting the fantasy genre. It is hurting everyone that plays the game. It is hurting everyone around the game. And what is this doing? It is dividing everyone. And the whole purpose of this is to come together and solely sit there and play games and have fun. Well, because of this, this is the statement that TSR put out after that. We here at TSR are very passionate about our gamers and gaming. We don't mean to offend or attack anyone and appreciate all feedback we've been getting from fans near and far. When confronted with disinformation, we have defended ourselves. Our message is very clear and always has been. Everyone is welcome at our gaming table. We will not tolerate rude, hateful, or disrespectful people or bots. And they've been getting bot spammed by replies and everything like that. To the point, I will get into it, to the point that that certain people are getting blocked accidentally because of the bot spamming. We will be banned, or you will be banned, blocked, and ignored. We ask our fans to do the same and stop fueling the lies and start focusing the future, we do appreciate the support. The slander and misrepresentation are deplorable, hurtful, and yes, disgusting, both from my team, our heritage, and this fine art form from all people love. Thanks for joining us for the journey in bringing TSR back, Justin Lasnasa, which is the CEO currently. And then they put up an amazing artwork. I absolutely love this artwork, and the phoenix rising up from the wizard. That is solely what this is. TSR is back. And when I saw this, it just about blew my mind with this artwork and the representation behind that. Well, so they put out this stuff saying, listen, we're not here to offend anyone. In all intents and purposes, there is no reason for the hateful rhetoric that they're seeing. Well, now we get Gen Con coming into this, saying that they're the arbiters and the gatekeepers of gaming. Gen Con is not associated with TSR Games, and we don't support their recent statements. While the foundation of Gen Con is tied with the history of TTRPGs, tabletop RPGs, our goal is to build off the good, acknowledge the bad, and work towards a present free from racism, misogyny, and homophobia. None of which was a statement that was made. Plain and simple. None of that was a statement made. This is the disinformation that they're talking about. People have the goal of just destroying this company that is being brought back. They're being risen from the graves, and they're being destroyed in the process. And like we saw back in the early 80s or late 70s, whenever that may have been, with the earlier thing, we had the church and the states going on saying this was a bad thing. This is an intellectual game. This is a very fantasy-based game, and it is all about the fantasy. Giant Lands is also another one that is associated with TSR, and they had a tweet. I can't find it anymore, but they had one where people were talking about this and demanding that they say, I believe it's trans lives matter or something like that, which is absolutely inherently stupid. This is like making people sit there on their knees and raise and do things when simple words and simple listening to everyone is all that is needed. Demanding that certain companies rise up under these banners is absolutely inherent, and it's just, no, this is not how you do business. They're trying to approach this from a business atmosphere, but they're wading into a modern day warfare at this point, and now they're just another target of the cancel culture that we are seeing. I, for one, want to see them succeed. I want to see more and more actual good adventures come from this company, and they continue to sit there and berate them today, and it's ongoing. It is so inherently bad. There's so much going on. There's even a Reddit post, out of the loop, why is everyone upset with TSR? I know nothing about TSR, but several content creators I know on Twitter. There's even Clownfish TV. There's other ones that are talking about it as well. You can find a lot of this information, but all intents and purposes, there was one person that brought it all together and really, for me, put everything into context. And the one post that I saw this all come together and all make the context behind everything that is here with the way people are treating TSR, treating the founders of the remake of the game, and just them rising this company from the grave. They're bringing it back from the ashes of nothing. It was Lunar Archivist. They put it together in a 10-point tweet, so please bear with me here because I'm going to go through most of this. I really didn't want to weigh in on the situation between TSR Games and Gygax Jr. because I've never had much involvement with the original company or Dungeons & Dragons except from the 80s cartoon, which I was a fan of, but it's time to set the record straight on this. By the way, if you're following Magic the Gathering, they took screenshots from the 80s cartoon and just made a Magic the Gathering secret layer for it for the newest Wizards of the Coast Dungeons & Dragons product that is coming out. So we'll see what comes of that. First of all, Ernie Gygax has never said, as someone are insisting, that he created the new TSR for people who wanted to enforce two gender identities. I haven't seen this statement. What he specifically said was a lot of old school tabletop role-playing games artists and designers have been getting flack. And they've got the screenshot here. I think he is saying we want nothing to do with politics or gender politics, just avoiding all these topics altogether. No, he's literally said that there are gamers out there who have been criticized for wanting to enforce two gender identities, and he has created this company for them. That is 100% incorrect. That is not what what Ernie said. He's saying the gender identities is just it's solely out there. It is for everyone. There is nowhere that he said that they're pushing this two gender identities stuff. For allegedly being old-fashioned, not subscribing to modern trends, citing different opinions on gender identity is an example. Specifically, he said that they were getting grief for, among other things, enforcing or even having the concepts of gender identity, and felt that those malign creativities had a lot of remaining potential that he wished to tap into in order to produce new material for the future. The exact quote and the video it was taken from are linked here so you can view proper context. TSR is gone. There are a ton of artists and designers that played it, and recently there's still dissed for being old-fashioned, possibly anti-modern trends, and enforcing or even having the concepts of gender identity, and so on. All I am still trying to do is fill in the strip mine, allow the old fertile soil to produce more games and produce products again. They're just trying to take what was once great and reproduce that. There's certain things that have changed, but that doesn't mean that they're sitting there saying that they're 100% against everything out there in the world. They're really pushing it forward. And this is what really got to me, and why. If anyone knows me, I'm a huge Therese Nielsen fan. I believe what has happened to her in the modern day works of modern, whatever you want to call it, is absolutely wrong. I believe she was railroaded when there was nothing to take her out. And here's the thing, Ernie Gygax is completely right about creativities being targeted. One only has to look at the excommunication of Therese Nielsen from Magic the Gathering community last year in her controversial and far-right, i.e. non-leftist points of view. And they link to the Polygon version of the article here, and talking about how it's conspiracies, Microneuralink, Jack Pelosic, and InfoWars, just because they're following them, they canceled her. And that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to watch these people. You're not allowed to do these things. It's absolutely stupid to sit there and cancel or to knock out that side of the coin. I like to hear everything that I can hear, but there is some things that just doesn't make common sense right. As an aside, given that one side of the current culture war seems determined to destroy traditional concepts of masculinity and femininity and eradicate sexy artwork, I suspect Gygax meant to say classic gender roles and not gender identity, but that's just my opinion. And they're showing here She-Hulk, how She-Hulk has become a little bit, not so much. An old Faithless Looting card here, and then the new Faithless Looting card here. In all intents and purposes, this is a completely different thing. Knowing a little bit more behind the Faithless Looting that I know now compared to when it was made. My stuff, it has nothing to do saying that this is anything to do with gender identity or gender roles or anything like that. I just don't like the artwork. Plain and simple. I thought it was not up to snuff to what we've seen in Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering artwork in the past. That is my thing on it. There's a lot of people that say a lot of nasty things about that particular card. Now let's get to the other big distortion, that TSR mocked gender identity and called a trans woman disgusting for demanding a clarification of Gygax's position. First, the individual involved asked TSR to expand upon the comments Gygax made about gender identity. This is a known trap of what we have seen in the past. They first sit there and go, okay, what you said here, I'm not exactly disagreeing or agreeing with it, but can you reiterate and give me more context on what you're saying there, so then I can disagree with you 100% and say, and it's a pit trap is what this is. So exactly, and TSR for inclusivity and tolerance. And then this other person, but they laughed at the concept of gender identity and called a trans woman disgusting when she asked for clarification. The TSR in question in the discussion is not the TSR of old. It's a new company started a month ago, which is not true. They've just been holding on to the copyright for quite a long time. Could you please directly expand on the comments made by Ernie Gygax about gender identity? Does this company support transgender people? That has nothing to do with what they said. Expand. Ernie made no such comments. Please stop trolling us. Thank you. And in all intents and purposes, I think that is where they go with that. I believe that is a just and approachable point of this, saying they never said anything like that. You're twisting the words. And that exactly is what has happened here. To which they responded that he made no such comments, and they're correct. As mentioned above, he cited differing opinions on gender identity as a reason for veteran creators were being targeted and alienated. He did not state his own position on it or that of TSR. 100%, that is what is coming down to. She then used a loaded demand to try and extort TSR into making explicit ideology, political statements regarding transgendered individuals for her benefit. It was this shameless, self-serving action, not her or her transgender status, which has been deemed disgusting. Just say, we here at TSR think trans women are women, trans men are men, and trans lives matter. Stop trying to dodge the question. That is not a question. That is a demand. And when you give an ultimatum like this, you have lost all sense of reality with the scenario that has been presented forward, and you have laid a trap that no one is going to win from. And this is why this is inherently bad and why this needs to stop. This type of cancel culture is absolutely ridiculous and needs to completely stop. And Giant Lands, one of the subsidiaries of TSR, just said you are disgusting, and they are saying that because they read everything here with that, and this is where it has completely gone off the deep end, and people need to calm the F down. I'm fed up with the woke individuals rewriting history socially, ostracized, marginalized creators, created the tabletop RPG community. You then infuriated their space and drove them out in the guise of diversity and tolerance. You're not victims, you're perpetrators. This is the cry bully scenario. They're being bullies. They are crying that they've been harmed or victimized, when in all intents and purposes, they threw the punches and they're making the situation. If people can start to learn how to play these games with the rules set in front of you, you're going to have an amazing time. Plain and simple, this is not the reasons to sit there and continue to berate them. Now, in an offhand thing, Lunar Archivist got blocked for some reason, and I'm guessing they used a listing of blockchains because TSR was getting botted. They were getting trolled. They have been unblocked. I did tweet out to TSR myself, and I'm hoping that was why they got unblocked. It was clearly a mistake from what I saw, and there was a lot behind that ultimately. Now, you know, there's a lot going on here. Plain and simple. When it comes down to it, TSR created Dungeons & Dragons, and when they created Dungeons & Dragons, we're talking in the 70s. They created this game, and the whole purpose of the game was to create a fantasy realm where your mind can escape from the modern-day realities. And now those modern-day realities have become more true than ever, and it is inherently bad. It is continuingly driving down the products, and we are seeing this continue on and on. And we have seen other cons now starting to ban TSR games over this. It is absolutely ridiculous that these conventions are continuing to do this. I believe that they have their right and have they have a fair opinion here. And this whole trying to cancel them over nothing. Nothing was said that was inherently bad. Nothing that was done is inherently bad. If you can pick up the rules, understand the rules, have a set of dice, you're able to play the game. There is nothing in the rules that say you cannot play this game because you have whatever you want to identify as. There is nothing in the game that says you have to sit there and play to their rules. It is all up to your player group. They're just a company that created the game, and ultimately everyone that is attacking them needs to stop doing this, because this type of cancel culture that is going on and on and on like this is absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. This is your proud Canadian Phoenix signing off. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hey, if you want to help support the channel, there's links for that down below as well. Until next time, you guys take care.